Imagine losing absolutely everything you have over a single parking ticket. Well, in Kathmandu, that exact scenario just triggered a nationwide shockwave. A minor, everyday fine somehow spiraled into an absolute tragedy that literally brought Parliament to a standstill. Welcome to the More We Know channel. Today, we're unpacking the heartbreaking story of the 1,000 rupee fine that cost a young man his life.
So what is the true cost of a 1,000 rupee fine? For most of us, it's just a frustrating annoyance, right? But for 25-year-old gig worker Ganesh Nepali, it was devastating. When a city police unit slapped a wheel lock on his Pathao motorcycle, it wasn't just an inconvenience, it was the complete erasure of his livelihood. Following a tense dispute over a parking spot, Ganesh resorted to an unthinkable act of desperation. He poured petrol over himself. And despite authorities actually airlifting specialists to Beer Hospital to try and save him, his injuries were just too severe.
Let's break down exactly how fast this escalated. This all went down last Thursday, right outside the Department of Passports in Tripureshwar. At 11 a.m., Ganesh drops off his passenger. Completely routine. But minutes later, the Nagar Prahari, that's the city police, tell him to move. A heated dispute breaks out, reportedly involving a broken phone. Shortly after that, the municipal police team locks up his bike. Just 2 hours later, the self-immolation. 2 hours. That's all it took to go from a routine morning drop-off to an irreversible tragedy.
Now, to really understand the immense pressure Ganesh was under, you have to look at one specific number, 300,000. That's the 300,000 rupee loan he had to take out just to buy his motorcycle. And how did he get it? By mortgaging his family's land all the way out in rural Mugu. You know, he actually had a degree in agriculture, but with absolutely zero jobs available, driving for a ride-hailing app was literally his only tool for survival. So when they clamped that bike, they weren't just locking up a piece of metal, they were locking up his family's entire financial future.
And this whole devastating event completely exposes a glaring, frankly confusing, systemic inconsistency. Here's the deal. If the regular traffic police catch you for unauthorized parking, you're looking at a 500 rupee fine. But if the Kathmandu Metropolitan City Police catch you for that exact same offense, boom, 1,000 rupees. Former officials are pointing to this and calling it a deeply fractured enforcement system. I mean, you've got two entirely different agencies handing out two totally different penalties for the exact same violation. It just doesn't add up.
At the very center of all this tension is the Nagar Prahari. These are the city police, managed directly by local municipalities under Schedule 8 of the Constitution to enforce local bylaws. But right now, they are facing a massive wave of criticism. People are accusing them of punitive policing that specifically targets the urban poor. Unlike the federal Nepal police, critics say the Nagar Prahari frequently use aggressive physical containment tactics without any independent judicial oversight to keep them in check.
And honestly, this isn't just about parking. This friction is part of a much larger clash over property and basic rights in Kathmandu. Critics argue that current urban governance is blinded by what they call dozer vision. It's this aggressive push for city aesthetics where authorities have previously bulldozed right over legal lal praja, the official land ownership certificates. So seizing vendor carts and clamping gig workers' motorcycles, many view it as just another piece of this aggressive pattern of state intervention.
As you can imagine, the political fallout from this has been immediate and it is intense. Over in Parliament, opposition lawmakers actually stood up and read current Prime Minister Balen Shah's own words right back to him. You see, back in 2023, when Shah was still the mayor of Kathmandu, he wrote a passionate Facebook post condemning the state's failure at every single stage after a very similar self-immolation incident. And now that his administration is the one holding the reins of the state machinery, lawmakers are neutrally but firmly using those exact past statements to demand accountability.
But a lot of leaders are stepping up and urging everyone not to let this devolve into the usual political mudslinging. Lawmaker Sumana Shrestha really hit the nail on the head when she described this tragic act. She said it wasn't just impulsive anger, it was the final terrifying form of learned helplessness. Leaders from across the political spectrum are emphasizing that losing Ganesh Nepali has to be a wake-up call. We need a serious moment of collective self-reflection on the deep systemic dysfunction and ultimately how the system treats its working-class citizens.
So, where does this leave us? We're left staring down a seriously crucial question. How should a rapidly growing city balance the enforcement of its rules with the sheer survival of its most vulnerable people? Urban governance experts are floating ideas like shifting to digital e-chalents, or maybe setting up designated zones for informal workers to operate safely. Because think about it. If Kathmandu is truly going to be a city for all, How do we enforce the law without driving people to absolute despair? It's a heavy topic for sure. But we want to hear from you. What do you think the solution is? Drop your thoughts in the comments below.